Every day when we wake up and look out at the world around us, do we see the full picture of reality? Have scientists discovered the core of what our universe is made of? Two films that present human perception of reality as only scratching the surface of what it truly is are The Matrix and 15 years later, Lucy. Both movies have similar themes. They center on a main character's journey as they consistently rise in access of higher levels of consciousness, which in turn helps them to see the reality of the world stripped of all externality. They can see the truth beneath the outer surface. Neo, at his highest potential, sees all of reality as a matrix, that the world consists of computer code that's been created by an artificial intelligence, while Lucy discovers the underlying wisdom inherent in all things and all places, and the interconnectivity of every fiber of reality, how time is the only unit of measure. Once they achieve enlightenment, both Neo and Lucy are no longer bound by nature, and they can transcend the limitations of time and space. Now, this concept of the physical reality we see having many layers underneath it has evolved throughout history, and while the scientific community might laugh at the findings of The Matrix and Lucy, they do agree that the way we see this world with our eyes, how we've seen it for most of human history, has been far too superficial. Just a few highlights along the way to this discovery. Isaac Newton in 1717 speculated that light particles and matter particles were interconvertible. Swedish scientist and theologian Emanuel Swedenborg theorized that all matter is ultimately composed of dimensionless points of pure and total motion. At the turn of the 19th century, scientists began to discover the existence of energy, waves of light, and the atomic field. In 1808, chemist John Dalton developed a very persuasive argument that led to an amazing realization. Perhaps all matter, all things, are made of tiny little bits, fundamental bits, indivisible bits, atomic bits. And atoms were then discovered in 1897 by a British physicist named J.J. Thomson. And famously, at the turn of the 20th century, we saw the discovery of a quantum reality. Einstein, in his paper on special relativity in 1905, shared his famous equation of E equals mc squared, that matter is energy and energy is matter. And then in the 1920s, quantum mechanics was popularized by physicists Max Born, Werner Heisenberg, and Wolfgang Pauli. The idea of an underlying reality has been floating around on and off for millennia. Although ancient cultures differed on what the fundamental elements were that combined to make matter, one question persisted. If I could break down matter further and further and Imagine a few hundred years ago you walked into a small cottage in Europe during a meal and you asked the head of the household, at its core, what is your table made of? He'd likely look at you strangely and answer wood. But if the owner of that cottage was a Jewish mystic, hundreds of years before quantum findings, he would have answered you that this table consists at its core of divine energy. Let's explore the Jewish mystical view of the underlying reality of all things. Time and existence began when one indivisible, infinite divine being decided to hide his presence to make room for an other to exist. And within this metaphorical empty space, this being expressed a finite creative energy, which the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, describes as light. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The Torah teaches that the root energy of all things, the spiritual DNA of all matter, are the Hebrew letters of formation that vibrate reality into being. The divine infinite channeled creative energy through this root source of the 22 Hebrew letters and combined them in 231 ways that then evolve into an infinite amount of combinations that make up every unique detail and fiber of the myriad life forces in our universe. The sages teach Adam Olam Katan, that a person is a microcosm for the universe. This is why the world is a majority water, just as we are. This is why the three major colors in nature of brown, blue, and green are the same as the three major eye colors in a human being. So let's explore, what does the Torah mean that God spoke reality into being? God, of course, doesn't have a mouth like ours and doesn't speak like we do. So what is speech in its essence? Speech is simply revealing outwardly to another being what was previously contained inside your mind. The reason the universe feels separate from a godly being and feels independent is because God formed it in a way of speech, a sense of an outward revelation from the annihilating presence of divine infinity. And even though the true reality is that no place is devoid of this divine being, it feels as such. Now, since we humans are formed in the divine image, and we're a microcosm of the universe, then if we inspect the human being and we inspect the universe, it can help us gain a faint glimpse into our source in God's infinitely more lofty and abstract reality. Everything we see, everything physical, reflects a spiritual source. So let's look at the human voice. When you speak, you produce a voice and words through your vocal folds coming together and then vibrating rapidly as air passes through them during exhalation of air from the lungs, which then produces the sound wave for your voice. The macrocosm, the universe, works the same way. It reflects this vibration of speech. In quantum mechanics, we find the wave-particle duality, that all particles exhibit a wave-like nature. In 2016, evidence of gravitational waves were discovered, ripples of space-time. And while not proven, one of the leading theories today for what underlies all of reality is string theory, where all particles can be viewed as one-dimensional strings that propagate through space and interact with each other, and predicts the existence of hidden dimensions of our reality. In the words of string theorist Dr. Michio Kaku, electrons, quarks are nothing but musical notes on a tiny vibrating string. Physics is the laws of harmony you can write on that. Chemistry is the melodies you can play on those vibrating strings. And the universe is a symphony of vibrating strings. What is the mind of God of Einstein? Cosmic music resonating through an 11-dimensional hyperspace. So perhaps our human vocal vibration when we speak mirrors the universe's underlying vibrational wave-like structure that are physical and metaphysical reflections of a spiritual, divine, vibrational expression of God that produced them. King David writes that forever, O Lord, your word stands in the heavens. The mystical sages bring down that this wasn't a one-time creative thing, that God is speaking the universe into reality at every moment, and if he would stop, everything would simply cease to exist. What's the philosophy behind this? Couldn't God have just made the universe once and kept it going? So imagine throwing a rock into the air. What is keeping that rock floating in the air? A rock's nature is to rest in place through gravity. The only thing propelling it against its nature is the force in your arm. The moment that force leaves the rock, so to speak, it will fall back down to its natural state. So if the natural state of our physical reality is the infinity of God, the only thing that's keeping it against its nature is God's continual creative force. In the words of 18th century mystic the Baal Shem Tov, if the letters were to remove themselves for an instant, God forbid, and return to their source, the entire heaven would become an absolute vacuum. So what practical impact can this idea have on our lives? Well, one is to grow our awareness that to keep this world and your life going, every breath you take, every heartbeat you have, every moment is a new gift. There must be a divine intention for every moment of your life to exist. It means that you can learn from every person you meet and everything that you see, that there's an intention behind its existence. It means you can find meaning and wisdom in everything that you encounter. As King David says, the heavens recite the glory of God, the sky tells of the work of his hands. Day to day utters speech, and night to night tells knowledge. The sages say 2,000 years ago in Ethics of Our Fathers, who is wise? Not the smartest person in the room, but the one who learns from every person. Our brains are wired to typecast, to label, to categorize everything and everyone we see into a box. And we do it to ourselves too. We think we know who we are, what our limited capabilities are. But what if you started to train your mind to see beneath the surface? To notice the divine intention in everything and in everyone, and most importantly, in yourself. Birth is God saying you matter. Doubting your worth or significance is doubting God and his will. Is it possible to work on yourself, to train your mind to become like Lucy or Neo, to see beneath the surface of reality? In the late 18th century, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi writes, the most important thing is practice. If one wants to attain faith and an awareness of God, one needs to engage in a habit of constantly imprinting on one's thought and mind that all one sees, the heavens and the earth and all they contain, are only the outer garments of God, but their essence is divine energy. This idea is implicit in the word for faith in Hebrew, emunah, which implies training, for a person has to train himself to have faith. Like a craftsman, uman, the same word for craftsman and faith, is one who practices his skill. There's not really a word for faith in Hebrew. The best term for emunah would be faithfulness, a loyalty to a knowledge you know to be true, but just the life we live, the world we're in, and all the distractions and desires that come our way can cause us to forget or not live aligned to that truth. It takes effort and training to remind our physical body and brain that there's a higher purpose. When you do that, you can begin to marvel at the world. You can see birds that fly in unison, you can see the sunset and the waves crashing, and you can see past the physicality of it into a guiding, vivifying force and energy behind it. I once interviewed my friend, Professor Dr. Brian Keating, on my podcast, and I asked him, what are you more impressed by? The beginning of reality taking form, the beginning from nothing to something, is that more of a wonder in your eyes? Or is it that somehow from that initial Big Bang explosion, a finely tuned universe developed that led to the world that we live in? And he said neither. The third stage, the development of human consciousness, was the most wondrous of them all. Now, the movie Lucy is predicated on the concept that if one could access their brain and utilize it to the fullest, you would reach enlightenment, that the brain is the highest level within mankind. But what is our mind? Imagine you were the first person to ever stumble upon the radio, and when you turn the knob, you hear voices. But when you start to pull out the wires, all the voices get garbled. You would think that the wiring is what creates the voices. You would never dream that there's electromagnetic radiation. You'd be certain that the wires created them. Lucy depicts the mind, the intellect, as the highest level to actualize. But Jewish mysticism teaches that the mind is simply one aspect of your soul that uses your brain as a vessel. But your soul can reach higher than the mind. Intuition, new insights, called chokhmah in Hebrew, is often achieved when not in a thinking state at all. Accessing your soul, your higher state of consciousness, can allow you to see behind the mask of the world. And once you do, like Neo and Lucy, who are able to bend the laws of nature once they recognize the truth, it's not just a perspective change that helps you get there, or in the Matrix ingesting a red pill, or in Lucy consuming synthetic CPH4. By working on your character traits, by becoming kinder, more patient, as you work to diminish your ego and you move from selfishness to selflessness, you start to open your finite self to become a vessel for the infinite one. And like Neo and Lucy, those who do that to the utmost and reach the highest levels of human potential are then able to bend the laws of nature once they recognize the truth. Tzaddikim, righteous ones who live completely aligned with God's will, see the divine energy of reality. They see the laws of nature as having a lawgiver, that the divine being sustaining it all isn't limited to those laws. And the only reason for natural order, of everything working automatically, the sun rises, the sun sets, the waves of the ocean go forward and backward, is to give us a feeling of free choice. Because we feel there's nothing more out there. But in the life of someone who is fully aware of the true source of all things, that nature is just a mask for the divine, miracles for that person aren't a problem, because God knows they will not affect his free choice or faith. That's already unshakable. They see nature as something miraculous, whereas revealed miracles, supernatural things to them, would be far more natural. Their biggest shock and curiosity in life is how God is able to hide his infinitude within a finite world of order. These people are not limited by the laws of nature. And there are numerous examples brought in the Talmud of sages who bent the laws of nature like it was nothing, that could revive the dead, that could split water, and it did nothing to add to their faith. What's life like for that person that accesses their full potential? In the Matrix and in Lucy, seeing the truth leads one to feel detached from feeling any joy in life. But our sages say that the truth is the opposite. Once you elevate yourself beyond the physical trappings of the world, you can enjoy it in a far more powerfully elevated way. That when one begins to live a more spiritually attuned life, your pleasure increases in a different way. It's not towards transient physicality, but you can taste the divinity in all things. Your eating, your drinking, your experiences of nature, intimacy, everything is elevated to a higher place. Everything takes on a renewed awe and wonder. So are science and religion at odds? What if the underlying wisdom of the universe, the theory of everything that everyone is chasing, that intelligence is simply what we call God, the divine? Professor John Wheeler says, "To my mind, there must be at the bottom of it all not an utterly simple equation, but an utterly simple idea." And to me, that idea, when we finally discover it, will be so compelling and so inevitable, so beautiful, we will all say to each other, how could it have ever been otherwise? Kabbalists call that underlying intelligence Memale Kol Almin, God's indwelling light. It's divine intelligence, but God's essence transcends the universe. Friends, let's take the red pill. When we realize that we're in touch with the entire universe, that we're aligned with the higher spiritual worlds, that connection works both ways on all levels. Your words, your actions, your intentions can bring harmony and unite our material world with the higher divine worlds of reality. Our words matter, our thoughts matter, we're all interconnected. And the more we grow and develop our states of consciousness and our inner sensitivity, the more we will become attuned to seeing the truth of our reality.